Your pain medicines might be causing your pain. As soon as I stood up, I noticed something. I didn't have any pain in my back. And I'd had pain in my back for 40 years.
Welcome back to another episode of the I Am Pain-Free podcast. Today we have an inspiring and transformative guest, Elizabeth Kipp. She's a remarkable healer, chronic pain coach, and author of The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power. Elizabeth's story is one of resilience, healing, and empowerment after decades of chronic pain. Yes, decades from surviving multiple surgeries and being prescribed powerful opioids for, guess what, over 30 years. The woman was addicted with an AIDS. She went from that to experience a life-changing freedom through natural methods. Her journey offers hope to those who feel trapped in pain. In this episode, Elizabeth takes us through the highs and lows of her recovery, from navigating a harrowing detox process. Can you imagine that? At the famous Betty Ford Center, to learning how to reset her nervous system with breathwork and meditation. Her conversation with Dr. Peter, I can't pronounce his name, Przekop, who first taught her the concept of hyperglycemia, I think that's how you pronounce it, changed her life forever by shifting her from a victim of pain to someone in control of your healing. So if you've ever felt that chronic pain in life is a life sentence, Elizabeth's journey will show you exactly that it's not, and that she was in it for decades, and now she's dedicated her life to helping people like you to get rid of that pain. So let's dive in. Welcome to Elizabeth. Hey, this is Rob Renee. Welcome to the I Am Pain-Free podcast. Have an exciting episode with Elizabeth Kipp. So Elizabeth, I'm super excited to have this conversation. The more I learned about your story, the more impressed I am about you. I'm excited. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for asking me to be a guest on your show.
You bet. I'm super excited to have you. And it looks like, of course, right when we start, to get a tickle in my throat, but that's how life rolls, right? So tell me a little bit about your story. It sounds like a really interesting one. You've lived with chronic pain for a really long time, so I'm really excited to learn about your story and then how you got to doing what you're doing today.
Sure. I'm just going to make this definition for the listeners that I use. The standard definition of chronic pain: any pain that's felt 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more is chronic. Okay. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial. It all sends the same signal to the brain. It hurts. The brain can't tell the difference between a broken bone or a broken heart.
I love it.
So that's a powerful place to start. And right. I always, as growing up, I always thought that talk about pain, it's all physical, but it's not. Anyway, my story is that I grew up with a lot of tension in the household. Okay. My mother had untreated and undiagnosed and untreated bipolar disorder, and she treated her discomfort with alcohol, which made her, in the way that affected her was she was unpredictable, and she would burst out in rage. I knew I was going to get it sometime every day. I just didn't know why. So it was very unpredictable. So that right there is a pattern that the nervous system picks up.
Okay.
That, I have to watch out for stuff.
Right.
So the difference really between chronic pain and acute pain is what's happening with the stress response. Okay. Right? In acute pain, the stress response gets turned on due to a perceived or real threat. We have physiology and psychology that addresses the threat. The threat is over, and the stress response goes back into the off position. Okay. In chronic pain, the stress response gets stuck in the on position, and so it's out of balance. And at a nervous system level, it's always under threat. And so that's very caustic and toxic to the body, because we're not made for that. It's not as difficult for the brain. It creates all kinds of problems in the brain.
Okay.
That's how I started my life, was with that. Plus, I had a lot of pressure at school to perform and at a high level. and I had dyslexia, which was, again, nobody knew what that was
Oh,
back
right,
then.
right.
I had a mild case. My brother and I both had learning disabilities that were just, oh, that's the way they are. You have to work
They
harder.
hadn't defined those at that
Oh,
time.
no. But so that creates more tension in the nervous system.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was how I was as a kid. I was raised. But then when I was 14, I had an accident and I fell off a horse and broke my fifth lumbar into front to back. And the front
Ow.
part, yeah. And the front part slipped forward. But the thing was, is that I had gut pain, and I had gut pain as part of my stress pattern. I had this
Okay.
gut pain. So I was used to a certain amount of low level, this is just the way my life is, pain. And when that accident happened, because I had seen, I was an equestrian as a kid, and because I had seen so many people fall and get taken off in a stretcher,
Hmm.
I was able to get up and walk.
Wow, really?
So I
Even
was
though your
like,
back was broken?
yeah, even though I had broken that.
Wow.
So it gives you an idea of what the threshold situation was, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Chronic pain had
You're like,
different.
hey, no problem, stroke. It's
It
okay.
was, yeah, we didn't know that, but I knew it hurt. But I was able to walk, so I didn't realize that it was a big problem. And
Right.
so anyway, I just had a sore back for a couple of weeks, and I just went on my life, and it became it would present itself as painful from time to time, but it wasn't until 7 years later that it really literally brought me to my knees, and I was like,
Wow.
maybe I should see a doctor.
Wow.
So I went and saw all different kind of back doctors, and everybody wanted to, everybody, and there was a Western doctor wanted to do surgery, and then but the chiropractor said we can help you, and I was like, great, I don't actually want to like have surgery. So they kept me going for 7 years, and then I get pregnant, and the I think the pregnancy put enough strain. It didn't. I could feel it during the pregnancy, but it wasn't until about 9 months afterward, after I delivered, and that area became quite unstable. And my chiropractor said, sometimes our patients need surgery, and you're one of them.
Really? Really?
So,
So even the chiropractor is recommending
yeah.
surgery. Interesting.
So I started a series of surgeries at that point, and that's where the medication started. There was just so much pain at that point. And so they put me on opiates and benzodiazepines, but because my reaction, you can imagine my nervous system was super wired by then.
Yeah.
And they used an anti-anxiety medicine coupled with the opiate to try and help me navigate that
Holy
space.
smokes. Yeah.
And anyway, so that required 3 surgeries over time, and then another corrective surgery, and then we finally got the back stable, but the pain in my back didn't go away, and it just became this phenomenon, and I just finally got tired of the medicine. The pain was just like, yeah, I get it, but the medicine was messing with me.
Yeah. I'll bet. Which
Like,
medicine was it at this time? So this was
oh, now we go down a whole laundry list, but
really.
I was on that combination for 31 years. The last
Wow.
50, yeah, the last 15 years was fentanyl and Ativan or
Yikes.
Xanax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not a good combination.
Yeah. So that was, anyway, I don't think, I'm just feeling so grateful to be alive, right? Because that's a deadly combination.
Yeah, that's a really bad combination. And then to be on it for so many years, that is
Yeah.
really a long time to have that
Yeah.
toxicity in
Yeah.
your body, right?
Yeah. The detox was powerful.
Yeah,
And
I can imagine what so talk me through how that happened. When did you finally say, okay, I don't want to be on this anymore? And then
yeah.
tell me that journey. That
Yeah,
sounds
I went
weird.
into the pain management program at the Betty Ford Center in 2013, September 15th of 2013.
Okay.
And I was in a, they have a detox hospital portion of that treatment center, and then they've got the rest of the campus. And I was in that detox wing, hospital wing for 12 days,
Wow.
detoxing. And then because that was so strenuous,
Yeah,
And it was
I
so
can imagine.
exhausting. They poured me into a wheelchair, and it took me a while to get my strength back, right? Which I did, but obviously. But here's what was interesting. I got up out of that. I had just enough strength to get up out of that bed, stand up, and get into the wheelchair. And what happened was, as soon as I stood up, I noticed something. I didn't have any pain on my back. And I'd had pain on my back for 40 years. It was gone like that. And I was
So
like, oh my
now,
God.
was this like when you were still in the detox center, or
Yeah, well, I was 12 days after I went in there and I went
okay?
through.
So after the 12 days of detoxing,
Yeah.
then you were able to get up out of the wheelchair and
Well, no, I was out. I was able to actually, I had enough strength to get out of the bed
okay,
and move myself into a wheelchair because that's all the strength I had. And and the pain in my back was gone. Now I had a lot of gut pain, but the pain in my back was gone, and I was just like, oh my God. And Dr. Peter Przekop, who was the doctor that ran my program while I was there, he passed away, but he left us this beautiful book, which we'll talk about. But he said to me, when I talked to him before I went to that treatment center, he said, your pain medicines might be causing your pain. And I was like, what? Kind of, that was fairly new data at the time.
right?
And then he said, there's two things he said. Second thing he said, I can reset your stress response. And I didn't know. He knew I was on benzos. He knew that. But I hadn't told him anything about the panic attacks I'd been having, which
He
I
just
had.
knew.
He knew. And my own doctor, prescribing doctor, never addressed any of that stuff. Didn't he just, anyway, he didn't see that. He didn't have that knowledge. He had other knowledge, but he
Right.
didn't have that knowledge. So it was all new to me. And as soon as Dr. Prescott said, I can reset your stress response, I said, when's the next bed open? I'm coming. I'm coming in. That was the thing that absolutely was just, the pain was one thing, but the panic, oh my God, that was, and it was, I couldn't find the pattern. I have a science background, and we're always looking for patterns. And we do that just as humans anyway.
Right.
It's how we find,
Causing that, huh? Yeah.
yeah, it's how we find predictability in the world. And I couldn't find the pattern. And the only pattern was there was no pattern. So that was troubling to me. And that, of course, because it was troubling to me, it was adding to the problem. Right?
Got it. Yeah.
So this
Got
was,
stress on top of more stress, huh?
yeah. So anyway, so the pain in some of that pain in my back was caused by what we know now is called hyperalgesia, where the opiate actually will cause pain in certain patients. And
Wow.
I was one of them. And that was new data in 2011, and I didn't get into treatment till 2013. And
Wow.
Dr. Prescott happened to be at the cutting edge of the research because he was a research scientist anyway, and he knew that stuff. So anyway,
Thank
um,
goodness. Thank goodness you met him. Was he part of the
oh,
treatment at the Betty Ford, or was
he
it
was, yeah,
okay?
he ran the pain. He was the director of the pain management program there, and he passed away in 2016. But he left us this beautiful book, Conquer Chronic Pain: An Innovative Mind-Body Approach. And it's a great book, and it's a great companion to mine because it's the doctory side, and my book, The Way Through Chronic Pain: Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power, is the patient manual. The two are a nice combination, and he was very special. Also, by the way, I walked in there with 40 years of chronic pain, and I walked out 52 days later with no pain in my body.
Wow. So they not only fixed your back, but you also your gut pain, huh?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But
Okay, sounds good.
what was interesting was I wasn't the only one. He had a 94% success rate in that program, and most of those
Wow.
people had 3 to 5 to 10 years, maybe 15 years of chronic pain. 40 years was epic. I was kind of a
Yeah, I was gonna say you doubled everybody. You were twice as good as they were.
they all 94% were able to walk into the program and walk out in this pain-free way. So
Wow, that's beautiful.
it was very effective, right? And Peter would never have said, that he fixed anything. He said, remember what I said? He said, I can help you reset your stress response.
Right.
He didn't take responsibility for that. He put it on me. That was part of his magic.
Interesting.
Was he, because I walked into that program when I finally was in the wheelchair and wheeled into his actual classroom, right? One of the first things he said when I walked in that room was, what are you doing to contribute to your pain?
You're like, what?
And I was like, I can't believe that guy just said that in this room.
That's rude.
Like, words are fighting words in this room, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Come here, Buster. I'll tell you what.
And that was very interesting, because I had that in my head. That it went like grease lightning that fast in my head. And then the very next thought was, hang on, what did he just say? He said, what are you doing to contribute to your pain? So he took me with one question from victimhood into empowerment by suggesting that there was a possibility that I had some control over my pain experience.
Wow.
And I was like, you got my attention now. Because I went from the pain's doing it to me to, oh, I might actually have some power here, and I'm down for that. Let's look at that.
Yeah, let's go a little deeper, huh?
Yeah, he was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really special. Do you want to talk through the gut thing of how he was able to help you through your gut pain?
Yeah.
Was that part of the process of you understanding that you're contributing to your pain?
Yeah, it's really an integrative program. Okay. We really have to. The difference between Peter and all the other doctors that I worked with, he didn't like to be called doctor. He was very like, we met each other on the same playing field. He was just a person. Right. He just had some information that we didn't have. And there was this collaboration, and he was just real interesting to work with and hilariously funny. He was one of the funniest people I ever met in my life. So he brought in, and it was very cool. One of the first things he said to me was, I said something about, don't you want to see my x-rays or my records? And he said, I don't need to see your records or your x-rays. I want to know who you are. And I was like, who is this guy? And where has he been all my life? You know? Like, what the heck kind of
you needed him 40 years ago, right?
Yes, exactly. And he looked through the facade that I had built to survive in the world and saw me. And that was very powerful, because I felt chronic pain steals our attention away from everything but it, and it isolates us. And so if somebody can see, when I saw that he saw me, I was like, even more curious, who is this guy? You know, right. What else does he know? I want to know. So he really had my attention. And I already had a meditation practice, but he helped me combine the breath with meditation, which I hadn't done. And I had a yoga practice prior to that, but we hadn't combined the breath with the movement. It's just the way that my exposure to that practice was. Now I'm a yoga teacher, and in my classes, nobody moves in any class that I teach without the breath being directed one way or another. That's just, so there's like different ways to teach stuff, but he taught us how to meditate on the breath. And so he addressed this habit that I talked about at the very beginning, this stress habit. This is how we do life. We do it hypervigilant, right? He knew that we had to start at the level of the nervous system. You can't think your way out of chronic pain. You have to work, because chronic pain changes the brain. Right. And the way the brain perceives stuff. You have to go to heal chronic pain. You have to heal the changes that happen in the brain. And so meditation was part of that, and breath work and nervous system rebuilding. And then we did some adversity therapy and trauma work and stuff like that. And Community was very important. The group supporting one another as we went through whatever it was we were going through. Individually, we shared and we got supported, and we weren't used to that. Like I said, chronic pain isolates us. So we're traumatized in relationship, and we heal in safe relationship. And he created a safe environment. Chronic pain is basically unresolved trauma that's it's been a long time. It's been three months or more,
Right.
Unresolved trauma in the system. Right.
And like what you're saying, the trauma could be physical, mental, or spiritual, right? Is that accurate?
Yeah, the brain can't tell the difference. So grief is if it lasts for 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more, grief is chronic pain experience.
Interesting.
It hurts. The brain can't tell the difference. So, yeah.
That's fascinating. So tell me about your writing your book. So obviously you said you'd walked out of the clinic, right? After how many days was it?
52 days.
Yeah, 52 days. And you had healed your back pain and your, I guess, all pain. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So then what did you do after that? I'll bet you were just ecstatic.
Yeah, I was. And because I had been on the medication for a long time, it took a while to detox. And I went right into a yoga practice, a very focused, targeted yoga practice that Tommy Rosen of Recovery 2.0 had, that I find I've been working with that program since then. And the benzodiazepine long-term use, which is anything over 2 weeks, by the way, is tricky getting off those because benzos fragment your sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And getting off them doesn't help. Sleep.
Once it messes up your sleep, when getting off of it doesn't fix it.
No, it doesn't really fix that. So the recovery from that particular drug is, what do I need to reestablish my diurnal pattern? What do I need to do? And that took, 5 years for me actually to get it down.
Wow. Yeah, that's a long recovery. It sounds like this process was, obviously you were in chronic pain for 40. You took 52 days to finally be pain-free, which is amazing after 40 years. I'll bet that was incredible. Then the detox took you, what'd you say, 3 years?
I'd say it was more like 5. And if you study alcoholism, you'll find that it takes an alcoholic 5 years to get their brain sorted out.
Interesting.
To get the brain back to normal. It takes time. And I wasn't on alcohol, but I was jacked up on fentanyl and benzos, and that was doing all kinds of stuff to the brain as well. So that was, but I will also say that the people that I have seen that are more of a challenge than I was on fentanyl are the people that do methamphetamine, because that raises the dopamine level to 1,200 times normal. And so coming off of that down to normal, that is a rough ride. And so that nervous system, as you think mine was jacked up, that nervous system's really dysregulated. So they really need a holistic program to help them stabilize.
Yeah.
And they really need guidance, because it's all about, what do we need to bring balance back into the brain, and what do we need to do to help the person process the trauma they didn't process in the first place?
Okay.
That's underneath all of it.
It took you 5 years to get a detox from that. Then what? When did you decide to write your book?
Oh, I started writing that probably in 2014. So I started writing that right away. It didn't publish until 2019.
Okay. It took you in that 5 year period
it was a project.
Right.
Yeah, because I was like, what do I want to say? And I've got a whole nother book, which is tentatively titled The Long Unwinding Road, a memoir of trauma and recovery. But that's a different story about me. So I was, what do I want to say in this book? And what I decided was I wanted to write a book because Peter had already written his book. And he wrote, I think his book came out in 2015, or I knew he had a book in the making, and he did the exercises, and I had already done that. He's got exercises in the back of the book, and I had already done those exercises in his program. So I was part of helping him formulate those exercises in the back. So I was already hooked into what he was doing with his book.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I had a lot of the patients that were in his program would text me and they would say, Elizabeth, I forgot the tools that Peter taught. What were they again? And so I kept getting these questions, and I thought we need a list of these things. And Peter was doing it his way, but I thought maybe we'll do it from this way, from my end. And then the other thing was, I wanted to show doctors, nurses, any caretaker, family members, and friends, what does it sound like in the mind of a chronic pain sufferer? Because we don't tell the truth. We're either quiet and don't say anything, or we complain all the time, and neither one of those is the truth. That was part of the mission of the book, was to bring out the voice of a chronic pain sufferer so that the people taking care of them had an inside, what's happening in there? What's happening with this person? And so that it's an education. It's a little different view it's a different way of explaining the landscape of chronic pain than Dr. Peter brought in. So anyway, so that's what I did. I brought in the tools that I used and what the landscape is that a chronic pain patient lives in from a personal experience. Peter wasn't a chronic pain sufferer. He was a doctor who studied it. I was one that actually lived the experience. So I was coming from a different place.
Yeah. That's why the combination of the two books is relevant, right? Because he came at it from a scientific perspective, and you came at it from a person who's lived it perspective, right?
Yeah. And I threw the science in there because I got a science background, but it's just a different thing. But I would like to share his tools. It's the 12 steps of wellness, and I have it on a little business card, and I give them out.
Fantastic.
And I'd love to share them because we put it down into a nutshell so that everybody could remember. So here they are.
I love it.
1, none of us were born to suffer. 2, we all have the ability to heal. 3, love with all your heart. 4, get real about your healing. 5, commit to your healing. 6, do the work it takes to heal. 7, do the work every day. 8, get real about your healing in case you didn't hear us the first time. 9, never let anyone or anything get in the way of your healing. 10, love yourself fiercely and without reservation. 11, accept what is. And 12, be grateful for all that comes your way, and more will be revealed.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love those 12 steps. That's fantastic. So thank you for sharing that. There'll be a great little reel we can put up to talk about his 12 steps. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well done. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. He was something else.
Yeah, sounds like he was a wonderful man. It's like, one of the guys that before his time. It's like I look at our health landscape today, and people, a lot of our health practices are not looking at the individual as a whole. They're just looking at their little specialty and whatever they are helping people with. And it sounds like with his program that he's looking at the person as a holistic mind, body, and spirit type of situation and helping people, which is fantastic.
He used this example, which I thought was so cool, because you're talking about the reductionist view and its limitation. And he used the example, and I'll just use myself as the patient, if you put up the x-rays of me and 2 other people, so 3 of us, we all have the same x-ray, you put it up, and the doctor's looking at it, and he's looking at the back, and I've got this big fusion in my back and this bone displaced and all this stuff. And the 3 patients have different symptoms. One has pain all the time. The other only has pain when they're stressed. and the other doesn't have any pain at all. How do you explain that just looking at the x-ray? You can't.
Yeah, I was going to say it's possible, right?
Yeah. And I've been all three of those patients. So how does that work?
I mean, how does that work?
Yeah. You have to read the books.
There you go. There you
That's
go.
longer than what this podcast can really handle. But it all goes back to the changes that happen in the brain because of chronic pain, and how evolution happens from pain all the time to no pain at all is the healing of the changes that happen in the brain because of chronic pain. It's that simple.
It's that simple. I love that.
Yeah.
So let's repeat that one more time so we can get that loud and clear. Say that one more time. Why is it so simple?
Yeah, because all we have to do is address the changes that happen in the brain because of chronic pain. And if we heal the changes that happen in chronic pain, we heal chronic pain. Now, the trick is, here's the trick. Peter said this to me afterwards, and I took him seriously because he was a joker and he said funny things and he was hilarious, but he was dead serious about this stuff, right? And he's just great at playing both sides, right? When I left that program, he said to me before I left, he said, use the tools every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So he taught you not only how to do it, but he taught you the skill set to continue it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that I have clients that were in his program that didn't use the tools when they got out and went right back into chronic pain.
Wow, really?
So part of my work is to reteach them the tools.
And to get them to live it out every day then, right?
Yeah, that motivation thing, really, that's an interesting thing that you've touched on, because that motivation thing really has to come from within. I can't give that to anybody, but I can open a door, and if they're willing, they can walk through. You see?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So really, Peter was a guide, guiding me to my own healing, and that's what I do as a coach now.
That's awesome. What got you into coach? So you wrote the book. Did you start your coaching practice? Is that what you do now? Explain more about what you're up to
right
now.
away. I started right away in 2014.
Okay, awesome.
Because I had doctors, prior to meeting Dr. Przekop, I had doctors tell me for all that time, you can't heal from chronic pain, get used to it. That's why I was on the medication, because they didn't have any other answer. And I was going, there's got to be another answer. I was just like, that's powerful to sit in front of a doctor who says, you can't heal from chronic pain. So they were so sure of that. And it wasn't just one, it was a whole slew of them. They were so sure of that they never asked the question, why isn't Elizabeth healing? Because they bought into their conclusion. And I had this science background, and I learned how to do science research, the fundamentals of how to do that. So I knew that they were operating in a model, and the models have limitations. And I realized that their limitations weren't necessarily the limitations of my body and its ability to heal. And so I kept looking, and it just took me a while to find Peter.
Well, man, you obviously are a blessing to a lot of people by being their coach and actually doing that level of effort to figure it out, right? Because now that you've figured out how to do that, and obviously being able to teach other people how to do that is a very powerful thing, because obviously pain is a horrible thing to live in. And that's why I started this podcast, is because there's so many people that are in pain. And the more research I did, is most pain can be resolved if you can help determine what the original cause is. And there's lots of different tools and lots of different things you can do to help people. That's what I love about this podcast, was it's just fascinating to talk to people like you, because everybody has a different experience, and you've had a really super extreme experience with chronic pain and lived with it for decades, which is a super long time, and then to be able to figure out a way to recover from that is extraordinary. So I just give you tons of kudos. And then just to be able to get off of those, one of my big objectives in life is to help people get off of big pharma drugs, right? And obviously you're helping people do that have been stuck on it for, like you said, you were on it for decades, and a lot of the practitioners that you worked with told you you could never get off of them. And that's just a sad thing. I love that you're giving people hope, right? And that's what I want to do. This podcast is to give people hope that there is a way to get rid of pain. And there's lots of tools and techniques that you can do to do it. So one of the things we want to make sure you do is let's read those 2 books. But then if people want to get in touch with you if they know somebody who's in chronic pain, has been told by their practitioner that you're going to be in pain the rest of your life, and you have a different story for them. So how do people get a hold of you, Elizabeth?
Oh, you can find me at my website, which is Elizabeth with a dash, Kipp.com. You got to put the dash in there to get to me. Otherwise, you'll get a web designer and photographer who's amazing, but she's not me. Elizabeth-Kipp.com. And all my social media is there. You can contact me through the site. You can set up a free 15-minute, just set up a free 15-minute call or book a session through there. So there's all kinds of free information there as well.
Awesome. So I'll make sure that I get all of your social media contacts and links. So we'll put those in the show notes so you can get access. And then what's the best place for them to find those 2 books? Are they on Amazon, or what's the best way for?
They can get them on Amazon. Yep. And if they have trouble with that, just have them find me on my website. You can get my book through my website, but Peter's is pretty much only on Amazon. I've got some extra copies here. In case they're out of them on Amazon, you can always reach out to me, and I'll get a book to you.
That's fantastic. So, man, Elizabeth, what a pleasure to meet you. And I'm so excited to share your story, because it's a powerful one, right? To go through what you have done and now how you're coaching people through that is just extraordinary. Do you want to, tell one maybe case study a person that you've helped? Can you think of one recently, or one that you'd like to share?
I can share with you one of the things that I do is I'm a betrayal trauma coach on the post-betrayal transformation institute site with Dr. Debbie Silber, because that's a chronic pain experience too. And I'm just thinking about the transformation that can happen. She generally sends new clients that come to that platform to me first, because their nervous systems are so dysregulated, and I can help them quickly with that. It's very interesting to sit with, even online, not even in person. I just imagine in person it'd be even more powerful. But to sit with somebody on Zoom who's got anxiety and doesn't know me from Adam, and then as a coach to try and attune to the client enough so that they feel safe, right? Nervous system first, and take them through a 3-minute breath practice that actually calms the nervous system. There's conscious breath practice you can do that calm the nervous system. And so they go from this anxious state to this calm, and maybe they haven't felt that way for who knows how long. And to see the look on their face when they realize their body remembers how to do that.
Oh, neat.
And that is like worth everything I went through.
Wow, that's fantastic. So you get obviously huge satisfaction about their transformation just in that short amount of time.
Yeah, because I did the same thing in that exercise that Peter did with me with one sentence.
Oh, wow.
I take them from victimhood to empowerment, because all they have to do is use their breath in a conscious way, and now I have power over this thing. right?
That's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's so amazing. Is the breathing technique a lot different than just like the Wim Hof breathing? Because
Oh, yes.
I do. Okay. Is it?
Wim
I
Hof
do
is,
that just because it's amazing for me. Just to look at his longevity
yeah,
studies and things that he does to help people
yeah.
with breathing techniques. And that's the only one that I know is his. So how
Well,
different
I
is yours?
think he's got a few different ones that do. The one
Yeah.
that I was taught is a long ass breath hold, and that would not be something that I would suggest for. And he's got a lot of force. There's a kind of a lot of force in his breath. That isn't something I would suggest for someone who's got a supercharged nervous system, a
Got it. Got
dysregulated
it.
nervous system. You want to, because their sympathetic is on full force. So you want to get them back into parasympathetic, and you do that with a long, slow breath where the exhale is as long or longer than the inhale. And there's a powerful connection in the brain between the brain and a long exhale. And that connection into the parasympathetic, the calming part of the nervous system.
Beautiful.
It takes about 3 minutes to get there, so you have
Right.
to stay with it.
Right.
So Wim Hof is great for kind of energizing and
Yeah.
packing the cells with oxygen and
Yeah. Yeah.
detoxing, and that, because I do Kundalini yoga and we do all kinds of, and I do other kinds of yoga, and there's a pranayama is just the big piece, and he's doing pranayama. He's doing focused, and there's all different kinds of pranayama you can do depending on what you want to do, right? So you want to
Right.
calm yourself down, you want to detox, you want to energize yourself. There are different ways. But the good news is we have power
Yeah. There
over
you
our
go.
experience. We can change our state using the breath.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I do talk a lot about there's power in your mind, right? Your mind is so powerful that you've obviously through your efforts, you've helped people rewire their brain, right? So
Yeah.
that's just an incredible thing. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the I Am Pain Free podcast, and I will make sure that we have all of your contact information for people to get a hold of you. And I pray that you are able to help a number of people who listen to this podcast and connect with you and can go from victimhood to freedom.
Thank you so much for having me as your guest.
Yeah. God bless you. And signing off from the I Am Pain Free podcast. As many of you know, my focus at the I Am Pain Free podcast is help as many people get pain free as possible. And we strive to use all natural and alternative therapies to accomplish that goal. Well, today I'm thrilled to introduce to you a revolutionary product that aligns perfectly with our mission of natural health and well-being. It's called Exodus by Exodus Strong. At Exodus Strong, their mission is to help you break free from the grip of big pharma and embrace natural solutions that promote vibrant health. With a foundation rooted in the wisdom of the Bible, the all-natural supplement harnesses the power of 7 key ingredients specifically mentioned in the scriptures. The flagship product Exodus is designed to be transformational, providing benefits as energy enhancement, stress relief, blood sugar stabilization, pain relief, and anti-inflammation. So join the movement, right, to help them get 1 million new people to read the Bible every day and transform their health naturally. When you purchase Exodus, use code IAPF at checkout to receive a special free gift with your order. It's time to exit the old you and step into a new chapter of vitality and well-being. To get there, you go to exodusstrong.com. So it's Exodus, EXODUS, STRONG.com. And check out and use that IAPF for the I Am Pain Free podcast. And then you'll experience the benefits of the Exodus mineral blend. This mineral blend is amazing. It's got the molecular hydrogen generating formula that's backed by hundreds of scientific studies. So begin your journey feeling great and looking great. Don't miss the opportunity to take control of your health with the all natural way. So go check it out. I think you'll really enjoy it.